What's up, Senior Portrait Secrets family? It's Josh Fisher, and I'm with Shane Hunter, and we're live right now with Senior Portrait Secrets Live. And we got a kind of a different but fun show that we're going to do. We got no guests, but that's going to be all right. And it's going to be kind of fun because we got some stuff planned. What's going on, Shane? How are you today?
Josh, I'm doing fantastic. It's been a great week so far. Busy, but busy's good, right?
Yep, busy's good. Yep. So we got your lighting presentation that we've been doing for several weeks now, and it's been really good. We've gotten some good feedback. So what are we talking about today with your lighting stuff?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Josh. We've been talking about, I'll just go ahead and review real quick here. We've been talking about off-camera flash and modifiers. Last time we talked about modifiers, we talked about harsh and soft light, and the effect they can have on your portraits, on your work. So today we're going to talk about. We've talked about how to, the light that it can produce, and we've talked about different kinds of budget versus not so much budget lights. But now we're going to talk about how to trigger your flashes. Now, trigger is it's not a bad word when you're talking about off-camera flash, Josh. It's triggering means what we're doing is your camera has a device on it that tells your flashes when to flash. So that device actually triggers your flashes to make them go. So we're going to talk about a few different products that you can use, and there are two different types, generally speaking. When we're talking about wireless, you can run wires to all the flashes if you want, but that's it's very reliable, but it's also easy to trip over wires, and then you have to deal with wires. We're trying to get away from wires. So wirelessly triggering your flashes is something that's very doable and can be done inexpensively. One thing that's built into a lot of cameras, I know Nikon and Canon both have these systems, is infrared signals, which are great, but they require line of sight. So if the camera flash that fires the infrared signal can't see, quote unquote, can't see the flash sensor, then your flash isn't going to trigger. So that's one kind of downfall of that. It's very inexpensive in that it's built into most of the flashes and the cameras that Nikon and Canon and maybe Sony, I don't know, but they have those things built into their cameras and flashes, so it's already there. But there is that kind of annoying, I have to make sure my camera's behind the flash, or if it's not heavy, doesn't have anything to bounce off of, it's just annoying. So radio signals, they can trigger through walls. So their range is longer, farther, I should say. The signals can go through walls, through obstructions. So having a system that works off of radio signals, way better. Now, all of these I'm going to mention right now, they do trigger from radio signals, and there are different levels of cost. So we'll talk about all of those. The first one I want to talk about is the Yongnuo, which is a very budget-friendly system. I've used this some. I'll tell you why I went away from it so quickly in just a minute. But they do. You see the model number there, the 622N, 622C. Obviously, that's or could be obvious that that's for Nikon and Canon. They do make them camera specific. So when you're making this purchase, if you make this purchase, make sure that you are paying attention to that. And the TX, it stands for transmitter. So the device on the far left is the transmitter. All it does is transmits. It doesn't it wouldn't do any good to put that on your flash. That goes on top of your camera, and it does allow you to control the light output straight from your camera, so you don't have to walk back and forth to each flash every time. And then the two devices that are identical are the 622 RX, which means receiver. These are actually transceivers, which means that if you only have a one light setup and you don't care about all the camera control, and you don't have that 622 TX, you can use each one of these devices as either a transmitter or a receiver. So they have both functionalities in them. The downfall of that is you don't have control of your camera or of your light output at the camera. So you can get all three of these for a 2-light setup with the camera control, a light control on your camera, for $120 on Amazon, and I checked that this morning, so that's current, and it's really good. Now, there are some pros and cons here. The pros, the pros, obviously, it's a low cost, so you have a quick path to off-camera flash, $120, and you can stick these right on your speed lights, and then you can fire them off-camera with a radio signal for a very low cost. Control from the camera, I've already talked about that. TTL means through the lens. So through the lens means that your camera and flash, it's amazing to me how this works, but when you push your shutter release button, the camera and flash talk to each other and negotiate how much exposure is needed for what you have metered for in your camera's metering system, and all in the time of that 1/200th of a second, or whatever you have your shutter speed set on. Your camera and flash talk to each other and decide what is the best exposure, and then they put the light output out there accordingly. So TTL is amazing. Free firmware upgrades. That means that you can hook this up to your computer, go to Young Nuo's website, and check for upgrades on the firmware to see what improvements they've made. And then high-speed sync is another big one. Another great feature of this very low-cost trigger system is high-speed sync or hyper-speed sync, which means that you can go beyond your camera's limitations on the sync speed of your shutters. Most of them are either 1/200th of a second or 1/250th of a second. High-speed sync means that you don't have to obey those rules anymore, that these devices will actually sync up your cameras and flashes. No matter what
flashes I have when I do like weddings and stuff, I got they work really great. I don't have the Canon flashes anymore. I bought the brand name flashes that has the receiver built into it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It works so good for what I need.
Yeah, and I forgot that they do have those flashes with the receiver built in. So all you would need is that device on the far left, the transmitter, and they do work. They really work great. The cons. This is my experience only as far as some of this. Now, of course, low cost means cheap. They're put together as cheap parts. That's how they keep the cost down. So breakages can be a problem. You don't want to drop these. It can be a little fragile. Low cost also means they can be unreliable. That was my experience. I feel like I'm maybe the outlier on that, because I've heard, like Josh just said, and I've read reviews that people and other friends that I have here in my area that have had great experiences with them of being reliable and firing consistently, or firing your flashes consistently.
Yeah. Oops. I will say I got one that never fails me ever, and then I have another one that every few events I have to kind of reset it. Yeah.
So it's that was my experience too. It was inconsistent. You think about you're in front of your client, if you're out there and you've had good experiences with it, but then all of a sudden it doesn't fire and you can't figure out why. It's really embarrassing to be out there, and that's what happened to me. I was with a client. It's actually the last time I ever used these, is because they didn't fire, and I didn't want that to ever happen again. So
nice.
Leads me to my next slide here. The value system. I call it value because it's not expensive, but it's also not as cheap as the Young Nuos. I used these for years, and there are others that are along the same cost level and as well as the same quality level. But the Paul C. Buff CyberSync system They worked so well for me. They couldn't have been more reliable because I don't remember ever they just failed on me. Every once in a while it would just miss for some random reason it would just miss one flash, but then the very next one it picked right back up. So I don't know, but these are this whole system, which is basically the same setup as the budget system there. The whole system is 360. And the Cyber Commander there on the bottom, it is the camera control, the light control on the camera. You can set up in different groups and different ratios, and you can have a group of 3 lights for just your key lights, and your group of 3 lights for your hair lights, maybe another group for just your background, or whatever you want to do. So those are really great. There are different channels and frequencies that you can set those receivers to make sure there's no interference with maybe other photographers if you have a park that's really busy and the other photographers are using the same system, they might accidentally trigger yours, so you can change frequencies to get on your own frequency there that only you would be able to control. Pros and cons. The cost is a little bit more, but it's still not prohibitive. It's $360 is for 3 units there and 2 light setup. Still pretty good. They're very reliable, as I said. They are made by the same company that makes Alien Bees, which are very popular and also very cost-effective as far as strobes go, if you want to upgrade from speed lights. And then the control from the camera that we mentioned before, that is also there for the Policy Buff CyberSync system. Some of the cons, it's all manual. There's no TTL here and no high-speed sync. So it's a very basic system. I do recommend learning on a system that doesn't offer TTL, just because you'll be forced to learn light ratios and you'll learn to not depend on the auto system so much, and it's just that's the way I learned, because I got on this first, and I have no regrets, because if ever I'm in a situation where TTL is not available or TTL is not practical, then I'm comfortable going all manual. So I would say that's not all con, but it is that TTL is very nice. So industry standard is Pocket Wizard. That's what many studio professionals use, and as far as high fashion photographers, if you watch any of those behind the scenes videos, you'll notice something that looks like that on top of their camera. The Pocket Wizard is this makes it seem cost effective, but if you do use the Alien Bees, which is a more widely used strobe, then these Pocket Wizards aren't going to have all their functionality like high speed sync and TTL and all that. So if you want those features, then you're going to spend a lot more money to get them with your Alien Bees. It almost becomes not even practical to do this, because now you can find this bundle used for about half that price, and it probably is going to work just fine depending on your luck with who you buy it from. But some of the pros and cons here, they're some of the most reliable triggers on the market. They're very well built. They do offer a TTL with flashes that are strobes that also offer TTL. They are the industry standard, and you do have that control from your camera. Some of the cons, you do need extra components if you are one of the many photographers across the country that uses Alien Bee lights or any other all manual light. And the HSS high speed sync, it does drive up the cost because you do need those extra components. So not as many cons. The more money you spend, obviously, the less cons you have. But that big con of having to pay a lot more money for them, that's not so good. So that's what you have there. And then one final point here, Josh, is that you can go with an all-in-one system. A very valuable, budget-friendly way to go if you want to do this is the Interfit S1. You can get the one strobe and the camera control for $800. So what you have now is you have the ability to do to trigger the flash. The receiver's built into that strobe. The device that goes on top of the camera is TTL, and it offers high-speed sync. It triggers your flash. And another great benefit of these all-in-one systems is that there's a built-in battery. So you can see on the top there, way to take that battery out, recharge it, put it back in, and the battery life is actually really good on these value units. Usually better than the Pro Photos that Josh and I use, which that's the industry standard. Many of the top pros use the Pro Photo. The B1 is what Josh and I both use. And it comes, if you notice, the Interfit came out after the Pro Photo, and they really made the design very similar on both the strobes and the camera unit. And there are some features that the Pro Photo obviously is going to have that the Interfit doesn't. Customer service, if that's important to you, then Pro Photo is second to none. And then there are some other obviously fancier features that we won't go into right now that you just have to look at the comparisons and see if the extra money is worth it for you, or if you're okay with just the Interfit. That's great. There are others. The Godox has some great products out there that are also on the budget. So I'm going to be putting out a little later, maybe this week or next, off-camera flash on the cheap. So if you're watching this series and you're wanting to get into this, you're not really sure how much it's going to cost you, I'm going to go through the most reliable and the most budget-friendly options that you can get for your camera, talking about modifiers, triggers, receivers, and all of those things. And we'll talk about the best, most budget-friendly way to go. So that'll be on the YouTube channel, Senior Portrait Secrets Live. So look for that coming out very soon, Josh.
Awesome. I remember when I first started out, I had it was a Canon flash and then just like a little 2x2 softbox that I mounted on a monopod. And it was just, the flash was, I don't even remember the numbers because I haven't used Canon in a while, but I don't know. I was just like so thrilled that I could use it. I remember like taking this couple out on the water, and like I had a monopod out like over it. I don't know. It just ended up looking really cool. It was like my first off-camera flash experience. And since like now it's, we do everything with Pro Photo and a lot of mixture of ambient light and off-camera flash on location and stuff. But,
well, that's the beauty of it, Josh, is that you start out with simple, and you should. I always recommend start out with one light, get that one light down, that added light, and see what you can do. But the beauty of it is it changes the entire, gives you a whole different option to offer your clients that you can't offer with available or natural light only. And then you can just add and make it more complex, add in gels to do different colors, and it's really awesome. So yeah, it's really great to go through that and to find out what it can offer your photography.
Yeah, and so, the more you use it and keep using it, eventually you're going to have like a signature style that clients come to recognize, and that's why they come to you and all that kind of stuff. And so that's what we've been doing for about 2-3 years now, using the B1 with a beauty dish or an octabox, and it's been so I love it.
I found that it's really hard to set your work apart. It's hard to find natural light photographers that look different from the others. And if you do find a natural light photographer that set themselves apart, you're usually extremely successful. So it is a kind of a feast or famine thing. If you can set yourself apart by using only natural light, then you're going to do great. However, if you add off-camera flash, it's going to be a lot easier to set yourself apart because you can do both. So when people ask what's better, natural light or off-camera flash, my answer is always yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Hey, I'd love to know in the comments or YouTube, or send us an email at seniorportraitsecretslive@gmail.com. Tell us what your experience is with any of the products that we've used right now. And like personally, I've never used CyberCommand and CyberSync. I've heard wonderful things about Policy Love, but just never had the opportunity to use those products. But if you use Canon or pro photo, Inifit, whatever. Let us know. Tell us what your favorite is, what you're using right now, what's working for you. And we'd love to get some feedback on that. So definitely go subscribe on YouTube. You can hit right here to hit subscribe on the YouTube video, and we'll go from there. So anyways, I got, Shane, is there anything else lighting-wise you want to talk about?
Oh, there's like hours worth of things I want to talk about. But for today, I think we'll just kick it over to you, man.
All right. So oh man, you got so much good stuff coming up. It's ridiculous. So, hey, if you're enjoying Shane's lighting stuff, I know he's taking you from the very, very beginning all the way, and we're going to go all the way to the top with his stuff. Let him know if you're enjoying his stuff and what he's teaching. Puts a lot of hard work into it to prepare these slides. And I mean, really, Shane, you're a ridiculous wealth of knowledge when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I'm glad you're sharing.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
You bet. All right. So, I'm going to continue on with the 10 pitfalls of success that people can have, or entrepreneurs can have in their business. This can be related from, non-photographers to a photographer. But I think if you want to be successful in owning a portrait business, you have to think of it like a business first, and what, makes you profitable, not doing it for the art or doing it for, doing it for your clients to, just make the most wonderful session possible, but you're barely being profitable. So, so we've talked, just to recap, number one was being paralyzed by fear. So everyone has fear, but the successful people take fear into their lives, but take in action anyway and move past it. Number two was learning without action. That's a big pitfall. So actually, I'm just reading this book right now, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. And so far it's really good, but a lot of it is action steps, stuff you have to actually take action on to change your business and stuff like that. So just because I read the book doesn't mean I'm going to be successful. We have to learn and actually take action on what we learned. That can be books, conferences, workshops, etc. Head trash. So we get in our minds like, my work's not good enough, or I don't have off-camera flash, or I don't have pro photo. I work on 9 to 5 right now. We just actually 3 weeks ago talked to someone who works a 9 to 5 yet crushes it on the weekend and on weeknights, and does really good with that. So then number 4, being comfortable with a good life. Everybody has, some people call it a thermostat, or some people call it just like your comfort zone, or just like your zone of, I can't remember what this other guy talks about, like not your zone of genius, but like just like your zone that you're in where you're comfortable and stuff like that. That's a pitfall right there. Like if you really want to have success where you only work like 3 days a week or X amount of days per month, and you have employees that really take care of a lot of the stuff for you, you have to be uncomfortable for a little while so that you can move past that and be comfortable and move past that to be a profitable lifetime. All right, so number 5 is moving in an act of desperation or self-interest. So if you're, and actually this is perfect timing too, so I just picked up this book from Amazon. It's by Donald Miller. It's called Building a Story Brand. And, clarify your message so customers will listen. Super recommend this book right now, especially if you're someone who you're just wondering why your clients aren't talking to you, or they're not inputting their information on your website, or maybe they do, but you're losing them after you collected that lead from your website. This is an amazing book to go through and really take action steps from that. But speaking on that, like if you're moving your business in an act of desperation or self-interest, your clients are absolutely going to see past that. So if you're more interested in making a sale than you are genuinely helping people, then your business is going to fail. And actually, I was reading through the Wall Street Journal, and one of their, I think it's like the vice president of sales or something like that. It was just this interview, and this little tidbit like really caught my eye whenever I was watching the interview. But it was whenever he's looking to hire someone, he's looking for someone who's more customer focused than they are competitor focused. And if you are in this business to genuinely like help your people and help your customers, and not being based on like your own interest and your own sales, or just trying to beat your competitor, but you're genuinely doing it for your customer, you will absolutely win in this business. So you can't just be interested in your business. You can't be a salesperson. Yes, you have to be a salesperson, but you can't be the salesperson like through and through, if that makes sense. So we have to use permission-based marketing and permission-based sales instead of rather just like pitch your product or pitch your albums or pitch your sessions to them constantly. That's number 5. Just to recap, desperation and self-interest will be a pitfall in your business. Number 6 is if you treat it like a hobby. So if you're someone that is 9 to 5 right now, but you want to go 9 to 5 with your photography, or you want to, make your own hours, be your own boss, then if you're treating it like a hobby, if your photography business is your side business right now and you're just treating it like a hobby, then that'll never be your full-time job. And so let's talk about like some of my hobbies right now. So like I love playing basketball with my friends. That's a hobby. I have no desire to try to go like play professional basketball in the NBA at all.
That's your backup plan though, right, Josh? That's your backup plan?
That's my backup plan. So, Oklahoma City, got a big market, Oklahoma basketball market. Buds with Sam Presti and, the general manager, and he's asked me a couple times. So,
well, keep your options open. That's all I'm saying.
So I don't have a commitment to mastery for basketball. I love playing it. It's fun, but I'm not, reading books about it. I'm not watching YouTube videos. Like right now you're watching a video about how to be better in your photography business. So just by watching this, you're probably not treating it like a hobby, but maybe just like do a quick mind check, and maybe you are. Maybe you don't have goals written out. Shane, right before this show went on, you were talking about how you were a deadline specific person. If you don't have a deadline set, it's probably not ever going to get done. So how many of you have a deadline like, hey, by June 1st, that's when I'm going to turn in my 2 weeks notice and I'm going to go full time in my business. And you're actively breaking down the steps to say, okay, I have to at least have 2 to 3 sessions a week to be able to support myself and replace my income that I have from this job. Here are the things I need to do in my business to go full time and do that with Senior Portraits. These are the marketing. This is my whole marketing calendar that I have set out before me so that I know what I'm doing in January, I know what I'm doing in February, I know what I'm doing in March, and I can predict my income on that. So if you're not doing those kind of things, then you're absolutely treating your business like a hobby. So you have to dedicate yourself to mastery. We're talking about off-camera flash. You have to dedicate yourself to being a master of shaping the light around you for portraits, whether it's natural light or whether it's off-camera flash. You have to dedicate yourself to goal setting, to running your business like a business and not just some thing you're doing because you just kind of fell into it. You have to dedicate yourself to being able to sell in the sales room when it comes time to actually make money on the portraits you produced. All right, let's see. This is my last one I'm going to do this week because I got 3 more for next week. Number 7 is being too concerned with the opinions of others. Actually, just recently I went and removed myself from a ton of photography Facebook groups that I didn't really know I was a part of. I just kind of kept seeing them show up in my news feed, and it was just people were throwing their opinions out, kind of like not directly at me, but basically Facebook was throwing them at me of, they were complaining about something, or they were saying, this is working for me right now, but, really like it worked one time for them, not consistently. Like there was no real data to back it up. And so all these other photographers like jumping on, trying to do these things, and then they were failing and people are getting frustrated. So I really didn't want to be concerned about any of that. I didn't want to be subjected by that in my life anymore. So I just like got rid of all these Facebook groups that I was a part of. I had no idea these people even added me to all these groups. Just in my local market with different photographers, I'm friends with a couple of photographers, but for the most part, I just kind of like completely remove myself from the community around here. And because I don't want to be concerned of, what they think of like my business part or the vice versa. I don't want them to think of like what I might think of them, if that makes sense. So like your belief in what you're doing to be successful in your own business does not require the approval of others. And some of you guys need to hear that today. Because you really do believe that, my coworkers don't believe I'm gonna be successful, and so you're sabotaging your own self. Whether you subconsciously, you're subconsciously sabotaging yourself to never be successful because you're just so, it's so personal to you that other people's opinions matter, and you really need to remove yourself from that. And the only thing that really you need to be concerned about is your own belief. And it's an age-old quote, but the lion does not lose sleep over the opinions of sheep. That's so true. And just, whether it's family, coworkers, friends, other successful people in other industries that, maybe don't believe in you, that kind of stuff. You really need to only focus on your own belief and attract the right people into your life. Start believing you're going to attract the right opportunities in your life, and start believing that you're going to attract the right, places and people to become successful and go full time. So anyways, I'm 2 minutes over 2:30 or 12:30. So I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to pick up with 8, 9, and 10 next week. And that's going to be really good. And that'll be the end of the 10 pitfalls of success. So whether you're successful or not, you will be. Just keep at it and attract the right things into you, and it'll happen. So,
yeah, that last thing you mentioned, Josh, about turning off the noise, basically. I did that 2 or 3 years ago. Let me first say, it's okay to look at other people's work if you need inspiration, or if you're just kind of like, look, whatever. But there's nothing wrong with it. But 2 or 3 years ago, I found my brain just completely cluttered with jealousy of, there's so many people way better than me. There still are. And if I look too much at that, it gets me in an anxiety, like, how can I ever measure up to these other amazing photographers? And then, just comparing myself, it hampered me creatively. As soon as I took almost every photographer I was following on Instagram, I unfollowed them, not to be, elitist or snobby, but just so I didn't want to see it anymore. And it took about 6 months for my brain to clear. And after that, something just clicked from a technical standpoint, from a creativity standpoint. Something just really clicked for me. And from a quality standpoint, my work took off from where it was. So I encourage people to try that, to, I guess, take your own self-inventory of what's best for you. But definitely try that. Just cut yourself off for all the reasons Josh mentioned. It's perfect advice, great advice. Good stuff, man.
Thank you. All right. So next week, I'm going to, I kind of said this, I'll just recap it again. I'm going to finish up 8, 9, 10 with the 10 pitfalls. Shane, you got some good stuff coming up on lighting. You got a little preview, what you want to talk about?
Yeah, we're going to probably wrap it up next week, and this portion of what we're talking about, and we're going to just kind of give a basic overview of what we've talked about, and as well as some more technical advice on how to approach off-camera flash. So it's going to be really good. I think you're going to be going to benefit greatly from it, especially if you're just kind of getting your feet wet on off-camera flash. It's going to be good. So I encourage everybody to tune in next week. Also, check our Facebook channel, Senior Portrait Secrets Live. You can search for that. It should pop right up. And there's some great content from the past on that, as well as Josh and I are going to be adding some new content coming up, other than just reposting this broadcast. So it's going to be good, Josh.
Yeah. So YouTube, right? I think you said Facebook.
Did I say Facebook?
You might have. So YouTube channel. So we got YouTube specific content coming in. But you can only get it if you subscribe. And so
you can look at Facebook, but it won't be there. You should just go to YouTube.
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, and then last thing, I'm gonna put a link to buy this book in YouTube and Facebook. Go check it out. This is a book I'm reading right now. This is another thing. I'm gonna start doing a book series, because I'll probably read like 1 or 2 books a week. Well, it's actually like about 1.5 a week. But there's a lot of good stuff that I pull from, and I want to share the books that I'm reading with you. So I'm going to post a link, and definitely go buy it and check it out. So don't forget, subscribe to YouTube, because we're going to have some really good stuff coming up.
Yeah, you definitely want to subscribe, because it'll notify you. You can even turn notifications on. It'll notify you whenever we post something, and then it'll go to the top of your YouTube suggestion list. So definitely subscribe, and recommend us, share us to your friends that you know would benefit. And what you got, Josh?
I'm going to do I know it's only October, right? But we have to start thinking about class of 2019 for seniors. And so this is prime time to really start targeting, like, unless you already do like a tween, and, like we have some people that we know that successfully do like tween model teams and stuff like that. So they're already kind of setting themselves up for success for that class. But if you don't do different teams and stuff for like freshmen through juniors, then I'm going to do a YouTube specific video series talking about Model Team and how to actually go ahead and launch that in November. That way you can start being profitable with it come January. So check it out on YouTube. Not going to be on Facebook. Check it out on YouTube. We'll put links in the comments. And that's it, man.
Yeah, I got to plug that too, man, because about a year and a half ago, I was so frustrated with my model team. I didn't know what to do. I know it's you have to have one as a senior portrait photographer. It's really good to have one, but man, Josh started talking to me about what he did, and I started adapting those things to my program, and it's completely revolutionized my business. So you really, really need to tune into that. It will change your life. So it's going to be good. Not to put pressure on you, Josh. Just talk about buddy, and it'll be fine.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. Like, just you become profitable with it. They share your stuff organically, and like you just have a really great team, and you're making money at the same time. And they're like wanting to give you their money. So that's the master of it. So, or the beauty of it. So, anyways, that's it. Subscribe on YouTube right now. Subscribe.
Do it. Just bite the bullet and click subscribe.
All right. I'll see you later.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Bye-bye.